Folks, if I could have everyone's attention, we'll call the Planning Commission meeting together for our November 23rd meeting. Kevin Jeffries, Chairman of the Planning Commission. Um, Before we get started here, I have an announcement we need to make. Our scheduled public hearing on docket PZ 21025 will not be heard today. We do not have an attorney representing the client or the applicant. And so our county attorney, Mr. Carter, has said that they need to be represented. It's an LLC or it's incorporated as a corporation, I believe. And so in order to be heard, they have to have an attorney to represent them, and they do not have an attorney. Right. So we are going to, I guess, defer this until another meeting. I'm not sure what meeting it'll be. We've got two meetings coming up in January, but looks like the dockets are going to be pretty full. So I apologize for that. It looks like it's going to be a short meeting. We do have revised school capacity standards that we'll be discussing here shortly. And then we do have a trip planned over for Simpsonville to look at some solar panels. So, looks like it might be a shorter day than we had anticipated. But anyway, let's move into and do the Pledge of Allegiance, if we would. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, which stands one nation under God, indivisible. Okay, thank you. And with that, commissioners, let's look at our minutes. I could like to get a motion to approve them, and with a second, and then we'll open it up for additions. Mr. Halfling? Okay. Have a second? Okay. Mr. Elder seconds. Commissioners, are there any additions or corrections we need to make to our October 26th meeting minutes? Ms. Jones?
On page 3 of 6, under where it says, let's see, it's under the fourth section, it says the 15-foot buffer is present. It starts with that. And then it says a large tree every 40 feet or one medium tree every 3 feet. Is that correct?
No, it is not correct. It's one every 40 feet, but I think it's one every 30, a medium-sized tree. And that's based on the canopy of the tree. I'm pretty sure it's 30, not 3.
We'll correct that or whatever. We'll make sure it's the right number in the regulation.
Doesn't seem right. Okay.
One large or medium every 40 feet. So it doesn't matter what size it is, it's every 40 feet. So we'll correct that.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First page in the approval of minutes. It says that it was seconded by Commissioner Halfling, who above we list as absent. So I'd like to commend him for his.
Okay. All right. We will correct that. Look back at see who actually seconded it.
Mm-hmm. Page 3. First item at the top, number 3, the fourth bullet point. I think after descendants, we need to insert a 2, T-O, 2.
Okay. We'll note that. Any additional additions or corrections? Okay. Seeing none, we'll just do a voice vote on this. All those in favor of approving the minutes from our October 26th meeting with the additions and corrections signify by saying aye. All opposed, no. Okay. Minutes from October 26th have been approved. All right, commissioners. As we are not going to hear docket PZ 21025, we'll go into Miss Albie, and I guess do we need to get them sworn in? Okay, let's and Mr. Williams, let's get you sworn in also.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, and Miss Albie, I guess you're going to present the revised school capacity standards.
Okay, so in your packet, again, Amy Alvey with Oldham County Planning Development Services. In your packet, I provided a marked up copy as well as a clean copy of the updates to the school capacity standards. We'll go over these. Michael Williams is here as well with Oldham County Board of Education. He's the Director of Pupil Personnel that I have worked with on this, and this did go to the Study Review Committee as well. But what the premise of this is, we made changes to the school capacity ordinance to reflect when you see Michael come and he says, you know, the development will generate 33 students, therefore they are allowed to have 35 building permits per year. That doesn't really work with multifamily or mixed use developments. We will be seeing developments coming in that are PUDs where they have mixed use. So they may have retail on the first floor, office on the second, and then living on the third floor. That's one building permit, but however, there may be multiple units in that building or an apartment complex, things of that nature. So what this does, it basically allows, changes the definition from dwelling or from permits, building permits per year to dwelling units per year. And then it also, we added a caveat in here that talks about incentivizing or what's a better word? I don't want to say incentivizing, promoting mixed use developments. So if someone has a mixed use development or promoting developments that have open space or more common space or other amenities for that single family use. So we'll just start at the first.
Amy, let me just add, that's for any non-residential use of the land. So whether it's open space or commercial, non-residential is really the motivation for changing it.
Non-residential or non-student generating uses. So on page 1, the first one under part 2, school capacity, we just did some grammatical changes there, and then we added KRS 100-2012. That section of KRS 100 allows the planning commission or planning unit to have capacity standards. So we wanted to put that in there just as kind of a backup of our justification for our capacity standards and how we're allowed to do that. So we just added that KRS in there. You turn to the second page under part 5, mitigation, item D, where it talks about phasing. This is what I was speaking of. Previously, it said building permits. So we changed that to dwelling units. And then what Jim was speaking of, where it says developments that include open space or mixed uses, non-residential or non-student generating uses shall receive additional dwelling units per year based on a multiplier approved by the Oldham County Board of Education and accepted by the Planning Commission. No development shall be granted more than 125 units per calendar year. So again, this will be for mixed use developments. Like I said, mostly these will be in a PUD that you would see, but however, in the future, you may see some other developments that will be on the large scale of a PUD, such as Oldham Reserve or Chlor Station that you will see in the future. But if they were to have some type of mixed use development or have commercial in the front and residential and, you know, on into the interior of the development. And then at the bottom, under the bullet points, it says the number of dwelling units allowed are cumulative on an annual basis per calendar year and begin at the time of record plat recording. And then again, we changed from building permits to dwelling units there. So Michael Williams is here if you have specific questions for him. But what we're looking at doing is obviously the Board of Education reviewed this information as well as part of their administrative regulations. And there will be obviously the multiplier for green space or open space will not be as significant as that is for commercial development, because the board looks at it, they're not getting students, but are they receiving tax revenue? So they obviously receive tax revenue off of commercial developments. So they would again, there'll be different multipliers for that, and that comes from the Board of Education.
This is going to be a recommendation to the legislative body since this is a change to the zoning regulations. So we're going to have a regular public type hearing. Don't see many people in the audience, and then we'll consider a motion to pass it on to the legislative bodies for their adoption.
All right, with that, does that complete your introduction?
It's pretty cut and dry. The numbers that will be specific for the multipliers for open space or green space and then non-residential uses will not be in the ordinance because that is a number that can fluctuate, just like the multiplier does when Michael comes and gives the projections of the 3, 5, and 10-year student population generation by building permit. It'll be by dwelling unit at this point. Also, Michael and I are still working on the calculations for multifamily developments, apartments or condominiums. They do not get permitted the same way a single family home does. So you may have one building that has 12 units in it, but it's one building permit. And the way the regs read now, it says, per building permit. So, but the problem is too, is that with multifamily developments, they are funded differently. You can sell individual lots to a developer, and I can build a house on it, or you can build a house on it, and we get our own individual funding. Apartment complexes are funded as one unit. So we're trying to figure out a way to get our math to work that makes sense without, trying to find a good word, without skewing the numbers towards multifamily, because right now, again, they get 8 building permits because they have 8 units, but they may have 96 individual dwellings in them. And so they should be phased appropriately the same way a 96 single family subdivision would be. So Michael and I are still working on that, but again, the actual multipliers will not be in the ordinance because that is subject to change based on growth.
All right, commissioners, this is, a little bit different than the way we normally hear this, but will be a recommendation. It will go from the commission to fiscal court, LaGrange City Council, Crestwood, and Pee Wee Valley. So let me open it up here for any questions for staff or for Mr. Williams, and then we'll go through the public hearing portion. But is there any questions?
Chairman, I want to write it. The study review committee did look at these recommended changes, so they moved it from study review committee to the full planning commission.
Correct. Okay. Any questions on this, at least for staff at this point? Okay. All right. Presentation. Michael, is there anything that you would like to add as far as that it's not been covered? Or
I will just state that we did review this with the board last night, and it's not in our board policy. Our board policy basically is very broad, kind of like this, where there's not specifics in it. So, and then it ties us down to our administrative regulations. So that's done more internally. The board sees them, but they're more guided from my department and our legal department. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. Any further questions? Yes, sir. Douglas?
Michael. This would be the one for you to answer. In one of this, it says the developments that include open space and mixed uses, non-residential and non-student generated uses shall receive additional dwelling units per year based on a multiplier approved by Oldham County Board of Education and accepted by the commission. Is that an interpretation from you or the school board itself based on the development that's being submitted? How does that work?
A set number, and basically how we have calculated that number is I took not so much for green space because it's sort of the undeveloped land sort of tax rate. And so I looked at how much, because we get those numbers when we get our tax receipts. I know how many acres are undeveloped land. And so basically that's a calculation of how much money did we get, how much undeveloped land is there that's being taxed at that rate. That becomes then 1,000th percentage of the total. And I did the same thing with the commercial property. So what I did was I looked at how much did we receive from PVA in that assessment that comes through the state to us, and then took it based on the number of commercial properties that provided that funding.
True then that the multiplier will be different consistently for each.
Multiplier would be saying, it would be kind of like the same, what we do now with our growth number. It'll be set for a year. It won't change for a year.
Okay, any further questions from the commission? Okay, seeing none, we don't have anyone else here as far as a formal public hearing. So at this time, I think we would open it up for the commission, and would need a motion on this to send this recommendation to the legislative bodies in Oldham County.
Well, they're part of the Joint Planning Commission.
Okay,
Yeah.
part of the Joint Planning Commission. So do we have a motion to that effect? And this is on the revised school capacity standards. Mr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we recommend and send to the members of the planning unit, the joint planning unit, these recommended changes.
Ms. Walter, was that a second? Did I see your hand go up? Okay, Ms. Walter seconds. All right, now any discussion on these revised school capacity standards? Mr. Smith?
In transitioning from building permits to dwelling units, should dwelling units be defined in any capacity, or is that getting too muddied in terms of what constitutes a dwelling unit?
It's really, yeah, it's in here, and it's really just language. It means the same thing essentially. A single family is a dwelling unit.
Understood. And just didn't know if there was minimums in terms of housing structure or something. Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion on this motion to send this recommendation to the planning units in Oldham County? Okay, seeing none, we will proceed to vote, and I'll call on Ms. Haishu to take the vote. And this is a motion to approve the revised school capacity standards recommendation.
Mr. Halfling,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Davis, Mr. Elder,
Yes.
Mr. Douglas, Penny, Mr. Hampton, Ms. Walser,
Yes.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Klingenfuss, Ms. Nasser,
All right, the motion to approve the revised school capacity standards recommendation, which will be sent to the planning units in Oldham County, has been approved on a vote of 12-0. So thank you, commissioners, for that. And Mr. Williams, thank you, sir. If we don't talk to you, have a happy Thanksgiving. With that, I guess, Miss Albee? Yeah, that's fine, but do we have anything for, you can kind of outline where we're looking for January?
Filing deadline for the January 6th meeting is tomorrow. We will send out an agenda once we have that. I'm not certain the 4 dockets that we had for TRC last week or 2 weeks ago, how many of those will apply for that January 6th meeting? I do know one will apply for the January 25th. Okay, so we will have a zoning change. So we will have a January 6th meeting, and we will have a January 25th meeting. So the January 6th meeting is on a Thursday. So just keep that in mind. But again, we'll send agendas out once we have that.
Have to see whether this one comes back.
This one may roll forward to the January 6th one as well.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Urban?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, commissioners, I apologize for this short meeting. I've never had anybody tell me that they wish the meeting was longer, but anyway, we'll go. Amy is texting the gentleman with LG&E to make sure that we're okay to head that direction. The folks, the commissioners that are going, we're going to be going to Simpsonville to look at some solar panel installation. So before we adjourn, just want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and don't eat too much turkey, but appreciate everybody coming out. Nothing else, Amy, for the cause?
No, I will send out training hours. Again, obviously, anyone that attends the training today will get training hours on that. And then I'll also, when I send out the link or the training hour counts for everyone, I'll send out the link as well. So any videos you want to watch between now and the end of the year to get your 8 required hours. We're on 2 different cycles. Some of you will end in December 31st of this year. Some will end December 31st of next year. So I'll send it out for everyone, but just look to see when your expiration date is of your 8 hours of required training.
All right. Well, with that, I think we will stand adjourned here this morning. And if we could, the folks that are going on the tour, we'll just meet downstairs by the doors here. And I think we're going to take 3 vehicles, so we'll divide up and hopefully the gentleman from LG&E will be available, early. Okay. And so we should be good to go. So with that, commissioners, we will stand adjourned for our November 23rd meeting.